So a lot of people have this idea that building muscle or being a natural bodybuilder requires a lot of money. A lot of money on food, a lot of money spent also on supplements. And that's absolutely not true. I started training at 125 pounds growing up back in Trinidad. And I was able to go from that 125 pounds to 198.5 pounds in competition shape. It's a lot of muscle on a very limited budget. Very limited budget because growing up in the islands, we were by no means affluent. And so I had to make every single dollar count. And I did. And in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the money saving strategies that I used to realize my goal, even though I didn't have that much in the way of resources available to me. So let's roll the intro and talk more about this. So in this video, I'm talking about how I was going to go from 125 pounds to 190.5 pounds on a very limited budget, and how you can also realize your goals of building muscle without having to spend that much money. But before I go any further, take the time to thank everyone for all the support, especially those who should be a one-stop place for anyone who's training naturally without supplements. Thanks again for tuning in, and do be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're first sight to get new content as it comes out. So how did Kevin do it? First off, I had some help. My older brother Ian was a bodybuilder before me. I remember when I was about 4 years old, sitting at a table, him talking about how important it was that when you're eating foods, that everything you eat has to be focused on helping you build muscle. Because he was all about building muscle back then. And that because there's only so much food you can actually eat over the course of the day, every single meal and every single food you put into your body has to count. And so I started bodybuilding at 14 years old as a student, of course, with not that much in the way of resources to begin with. I cut out all junk food because all the money I was going to spend was going to be on foods that were going to help me get bigger and stronger and realize my goal. And right there, that helped me save a lot. Also, as a teenager growing up in Trinidad, alcohol is something that we tended to get involved with quite often. But alcohol is also expensive, and it wasn't something that was going to help me on my path to building muscle. And so I never drank any alcohol, which also helped me save a lot of money. Now, back then, magazines were how we got most of our information about bodybuilding, and they were all about eating chicken breast, beef, and fish, and all these other very expensive protein sources. But my big brother, again, he would eat peanut butter sandwiches all the time, and that's exactly what I ate. Peanut butter sandwiches on whole wheat bread, real whole wheat bread, and also real peanut butter, no salt or sugar added to it. And that was a really inexpensive food that helped me grow, and also leads me to a very important point about saving money if you're trying to build muscle. You don't have to consume a tremendous amount of protein. During the time I went from 125 pounds to 190.5 pounds, I was only consuming 120 grams of protein per day. That's it. You don't need that much protein in order to grow. If you're training hard enough and you're getting just about 0.6 grams of protein per pound of body weight, you will grow. It's not just me. I've worked with natural bodybuilders from many parts of the world, and a good number of them didn't have access to that much in the way of resources, some of them eating as little as only one meal a day. But just like me, even though their protein intake wasn't 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, which is tremendously expensive, and a fantastic way, by the way, to sell protein shakes, but it's also tremendously unnecessary because we were able to grow by consuming considerably less. And right there, you can save a lot of money. And so for me, peanut butter sandwiches, along with a little bit of chicken and some eggs, was all I needed to grow. And that segues into the other important point, which is that you don't need protein supplements or supplements at all. A lot of natural bodybuilders and natural athletes spend a lot of money on supplements. You're probably used to fitness influencers like me trying to sell you supplements and telling you how fantastic it is and that you're so lucky that you can save 15% if you use the links below or some nonsense like that. But none of that's happening here because that's one of the main reasons why misinformation about supplements persists. Because it's profitable for a lot of people in the fitness industry, and so they keep on telling their followers and their clients how fantastic it works because they profit from it. Just like the magazines did back in the day. Every single natural athlete who I ever worked with who replaced the protein shakes they were taking with solid food always had better results. And if you're taking protein shakes now and you take them out, you're going to be saving a tremendous amount of money because I've seen the prices and they're pretty high. Now, as far as all the other supplements like creatine and everything else on the market, honestly, nothing is ever going to help you build muscle as a natural athlete better than regular unprocessed food. I think as a natural athlete, it's really important to be aware of the fact that supplements can be a pitfall. We need to focus all of our energy on believing in ourselves and understand that we have all the tools within us in order to excel in terms of building muscle, getting stronger, and realizing that goal that we're striving for. Very often when people start using supplement, they get a bit of a placebo effect. Because you're using a supplement, they'll eat better. Because they're using a supplement, they'll train hard. And when they see some gains from eating better and training harder, the first thing they do is credit the supplements for the success, taking away the very important focus on the hard work that they put in. Supplements for me are and always have been false gods, and they don't need our worship because we need to put all of our energy into believing in ourselves. And so my advice to you, if you're trying to save money, is forget about the convenience fee. The convenience fee is how much money it costs for someone to do something for you. For example, skinless, boneless chicken breasts cost more than regular chicken breasts. But because regular chicken breasts are cut from a chicken, sometimes it can cost more than a whole chicken itself. And of course, a whole raw chicken will always cost less than chicken that's cooked because there's a convenience fee. So to save money, always try to figure out what you can do to minimize those fees and do as much as you can for yourself. Now, when I was growing up as well, I did like having some beef in my diet. And one of the good things about if you're eating red meat is that the leaner cuts tend to be cheaper. People like really well marbled steaks, as it's much higher in fat and much juicier. And that works to your benefit because you don't need the extra fat, and cuts like round roast tend to be significantly cheaper than the premium cut. Growing up, fish and eggs were relatively cheap as well, but unfortunately over the years, they've become somewhat expensive. But if you can get them as close as possible to the source, it can be a little bit cheaper. And in terms of protein sources, don't discount the importance of things like lentils and beans can play in your diet because they offer an excellent source of protein and most importantly, they don't cost that much. Nuts also fall into that category. They don't tend to cost that much and you don't have to spend that much money on the exorbitantly priced ones. The simpler, the better. And of course, fruits and vegetables are always going to be cheaper than most processed food. So these are some of the tips that help me get nutrition I need to build muscle growing up, and I hope that they really help you as well. Also, really important, sometimes financially we don't have all the resources available to us and we feel that we should just give up, but we can't get that far because we don't have that much money in our pocket. Don't do that. If you have a dream of getting a certain place as far as your body is concerned, stay with it, stay with the path, do the best you can. Even though you're on a limited budget, there's not that much food you can afford. Make sure the meals you can afford are the best that you could possibly eat and stay with it no matter what. I remember back in Trinidad when I started working as a personal trainer, I'd get paid once a month. And what that meant is I had money to buy food earlier in the month, but as the weeks went on, I had less and less money and I would eat less and less. To the point where I'd say that the last week of the month is my cutting week, where I'm really watching my calories and not eating that much. And instead of being down about the fact I didn't always have as much food as I wanted, I thought instead in the idea that this is going to help me stay lean. And it did. And if I keep on doing the things I'm doing, I'm going to get to a point where one day I will be able to afford to eat the same way regardless of what week of the month it was. And look where I ended up. So I'm telling you, I understand it can be hard, but stay the path. And I hope these tips are as useful to you as they were for me growing up. Thanks so much as always for tuning in, and as always, Excelsior.